Welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about active players who it's probably time for them to retire. We're going to name all 5 guys to start this list. I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott. All right, you look at Ezekiel Elliott, like, yes, he can be useful in short burst situations like the goal line or second and short, third and short, and get you production like that. Like, he had 12 touchdowns in 2022. So when you look at it, pretty good, but his yards per rush was the lowest of his career at 3.8. So when you really look in depth at Zeke, like, the explosiveness just isn't there. Like, he put a video out a week or two ago on his Instagram, and you could just see that the explosiveness that made him the elite back that he was for the first 4 or 5 years of his career, like, he's just not that guy anymore. And then when you talk about versatility at the running back position, like, as a receiving threat, because he doesn't have that explosiveness anymore, like, he's not going to get away from anybody running routes. So as a receiver, he's not really useful that way. And he's more of a liability as a pass blocker than he is being useful or just being a stand-in guy anyways. Like, Tony Pollard was much better as a pass blocker for the Cowboys in 2022. So Ezekiel Elliott, like, it's at the point now where he's not going to make the money that he wants to make. Like, why come in and risk getting hurt somewhere you're probably not even going to start anyway? So it feels like Zeke, probably time for him to retire. Now, another guy that's probably already retired but not going to officially retire is Matt Ryan. And he just signed a deal with CBS to be an analyst for their CBS football that they do on Sundays. And he mentioned that, he's not retiring yet, but it's more likely that he's not retiring yet because the Colts are still paying him $12 million. It was written in the contract from the Falcons that transferred over to the Colts in the trade, and then they reworked some stuff in the contract. It was supposed to end up being more, ended up only being $12 million, but the Colts are still paying him $12 million this year, even though he's not playing. So he's going to make the money, and then after the season is over, he'll probably formally retire and then be done with it from there, and then probably move in being full-time analyst if he's any good at it. So Matt Ryan, a guy, but just in case, wanted to add him to the list, should be retiring. Next, guys, is one of my favorite players, a guy that doesn't get talked about a lot because offensive linemen don't get talked about a lot, but Jason Peters. It just feels like it's time. He's 41 years old, you know what I mean? And he recently said that he's the Michael Jordan of offensive linemen. And that, fair, right? Like, obviously doesn't have the 6 championships, but he's been in the league for so long, and he was so good for so long. It's like at any point he decides to retire, he's going to end up being a first ballot Hall of Famer. And at this point, like, he's clearly just playing just to get a ring. Like, that has to be the only purpose of him playing, and to be somewhere where he's actually going to play, but to be able to get a ring. And being with the Cowboys, like, he's likely to re-sign with the Cowboys from the last that I saw. And as long as he's with the Cowboys, like, there's a chance that he gets a ring. But it just feels like, hey, man, you should have retired a couple years ago. Just go ahead, walk away from the game. Nobody's going to blame you. You're probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Go ahead, walk away. I guess in retrospect, maybe he wants to try to come back and wait a year to formally retire and quit playing because J.J. Watt and Tom Brady are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers. Maybe that plays into it, but it just felt like Jason Peters should walk away from the game right now. A guy that had a chance to walk away from the game recently and decided to come back, it might not be retiring, kind of be for the same reason Jason Peters that I had just mentioned. Maybe it's because of Tom Brady and J.J. Watt in the same first ballot Hall of Fame class, but it's going to be Aaron Donald, going on the defensive line. And it kind of speaks for itself, right? He's done everything. He has a ring, and in that Super Bowl, he made the play that basically preserved getting that ring, getting the pressure on Joe Burrow when there was a wide open receiver down the right sideline. He's been first team All-Pro 7 times, Pro Bowler every year of his career. He has 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. And he overall might be the best defensive player to ever play the game. Like, again, first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, at this point, why go through the rebuild that the Rams are inevitably about to have to go through? Like, I understand one more run, give it one more run. But if you look at their current situation, I thought this would be a perfect time to walk away after the season that they had. Be like, all right, we tried to do it. It just isn't going to work out. You know, they traded Jalen. Maybe this is the time I'll walk away. He didn't decide that. I thought this is a good time for him, but we'll see what he's able to do. We'll see if he's able to be the same player in 2023 that we've always known him to be. And the last player on this list is going to be Marcus Peters, another player that I like. Look, I understand Marcus Peters isn't for everybody, and I understand that. But he's an absolute dog. He's a great football player. And throughout his time in the league has been one of the best players at his position. Now, he was still playing at a high level in 2020 before he tore his ACL going into 2021 season, where he didn't play that entire season. And then he comes back in 2022, has, if you look on paper, easily the worst year of his career. And you could just tell, like, if you were watching the Ravens games, like, he just didn't have what made him different anymore. You know, and there were certainly times where he was a liability in coverage. At this point in the offseason, the only team that he's had a visit with was with the Raiders on May 15th. So, in my opinion, like, instead of risking injury again for what is surely going to end up being, you know, a super low value contract, like, it's probably best to just go ahead and hang it up. You had a great career. Is he going to be a Hall of Famer? I don't know. But with what we saw last year, like, sure, he could come back and be great. You know, we saw Xavier Rhodes come back, have a stellar year after a couple of down seasons. But this just feels like an ideal time for him to walk away, not really talking with many teams. After what you've done in your career and after what we saw last year, go ahead and hang it up, Marcus Peters. Like, you did well, dude. Did really well. But that, for me, is my list of guys that are currently active NFL players that should retire. You let me know what you think of the list down in the comments. Let me know who you think is in the league that I didn't mention that should retire. Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to keep coming back for more off-season content, and we'll see you for the next video.